it's really how do I make sure my kids are safe with the content in such a world today, where you have all the big companies delivering entertainment content to our kids that probably do not share all of our values. And I think this is where we come into play, not too much in the sense of being conservative, but really being faithful and rooted in this faith. We placed the player on the table, and the kid, he took it and he ran away. He started to play with it, and he was listening to all the story we had recorded there, and he was having so much fun.
It is the most important thing, our children's spiritual formation. I think a lot about this, particularly as you talked about in the world that they're in today. Even relatively innocent programming, I find, doesn't always match what I want my kids learning at this age. Hello, and welcome to the Liberty Spenders podcast. I'm Kurt Luthart, your host and co-founder of the Prosper Group, an agency that's raised over $500 million and elected over 100 members of Congress, 15 governors, 15 U.S. senators, and 1 president. And now, in addition to helping political candidates get elected, we are helping your business get elected by answering this question. What if you could exponentially grow your business by tapping into a unique and engaged audience we call Liberty Spenders? Liberty Spenders are politically conservative or faith-based consumers who make up roughly 40% of the country and are looking to buy from businesses that align with their values. If you want to learn more, you can learn it now by getting our new best-selling book for free at libertyspenders.com/free. Our guest today I'm particularly excited about is Elie de Laforcade, a resident of Washington State, but you'll know when he starts talking, he was actually born in Paris, France. He is the co-founder and co-CEO of HeWo, a company dedicated to helping children discover the joy of faith and prayer. Alongside his wife, Viviana, Elie has passionately committed himself to creating tools that nurture the spiritual development of young minds, providing a safe and engaging way for children to explore the Bible, learn to pray, and build a relationship with Jesus Christ. A devoted Catholic husband and father of 2 daughters, Elie brings his deep love for scriptures and his leadership expertise to HeWo. Under his guidance, HeWo strives to inspire the next generation to connect with their faith and develop meaningful relationships with God. Elie, I'm so excited for you to be here, in part because I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and I totally get it, what you're doing here. But welcome.
Thank you so much, Kurt. Thank you for having me. I'm happy and honored to be on your show and to have the opportunity to meet you, talk with you, and talk a bit about what we're trying to do here at HeWo.
Yeah, I just think it's ridiculously exciting what you're building there. As a parent of 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, finding really good quality entertainment options that I am willing to put in front of my children is such a hard thing to do.
Yeah, that's exactly. I think where we're coming from, and most of the feedbacks we have, and where I think we're matching an actual need of the families, of the parent, is it's really how do I make sure my kids are safe with the content in such a world today, where you have all the big companies delivering entertainment content to our kids that probably do not share all of our values. And I think this is where we come into play, not too much in the sense of being conservative, but really being faithful and rooted in this faith, where which is, for most of us, it's one of the most important thing in life, if not the most important thing. And this is what we're trying to do exactly.
Yeah, well, I absolutely think it is the most important thing, our children's spiritual formation. I think a lot about this, particularly as you talked about in the world that they're in today. Even relatively innocent programming, I find, doesn't always match what I want my kids learning at this age, or they introduce topics that I'm not sure they're ready to be aware of.
Absolutely. You have some obvious things where when you see or listen to that, you say, oh, stop right now. And you have things that are more, you don't know, but there is a seed that is planted and it will grow without you even notice. And this is what we're trying to do, is to say, you're with the word of God. You're deep into the Bible and into the prayers. And it's only good thing that you can get from there. And yeah, this is so important it was so important for us as parents that we're thinking, yeah, we should probably, we're probably not alone. So we probably have tons of families having the same issues. And yeah, we're happy that we've been able to deliver this product and this content for a wider audience.
So I know we've kind of touched on it, but describe HeWo and your product for people who aren't aware of it. I know for those of you on video, you might actually be able to see it, but
yeah, I got one on my hand, but I'll do a description for people listening only. So HeWo, it's an audio player. It's a small radio style player with a small screen, and the thing is, it's really designed for the kids. So that is the kids' device. They see you with your smartphone. You don't want them to have a smartphone when they're 4, 5, 6. This is their stuff. It's their product. So you have a tiny screen. They select their stories, whatever they want to listen, and they just press a button and they get the content. They can plug, of course, headsets, and you have tons of cool features. But it's super easy to use for them. And that comes with an app that the parents have on their smartphone where they select actually what is the content I want my kid to listen. So we're about to be at Christmas, so you probably want to have a few stories about the birth of Jesus. You probably want to have some Christmas caroling songs. And you can basically create their playlist on your phone, or you can also subscribe to the one we do. And basically you're too busy to manage really the content. You can trust us. We're going to do something specific for this age range and for, the time of the year where we are.
Well, my kids, of course, love watching video, but they've also liked audio. And my mother plays them stories that they can listen to in audio, and they get into them and they ask for them. So it's something that I think they're going to like.
Absolutely. But the thing is, I mean, we're doing a podcast here. There is 80% of kids in the US under 12 listen to at least one podcast a week. At least one podcast a week. And in most of the case, I think it's 70%. They ask for the podcast. It's not the parents saying, "Oh, you should listen to that." They ask for the podcast. And the good thing with audio compared to video is, I mean, you have tons of good things. One of them being that you're not passive. So you have to make your imagination work. If I tell you, if I show you, and you have amazing stuff. I'm not criticizing at all. I think it's two different options. But if I show you a cartoon of the life of Jesus, you represent yourself, Jesus, how he's looking, the disciples, the land of Israel, how is it? And basically you'll be receiving all that, which can be great. When you listen, you have to figure out, your imagination has to work to make you represent that. And in terms of development of the brain, it's definitely way better. I can't even give you a number. It's 10 times better than a screen.
Yeah. I did not know that. I've not even thought to introduce podcasts to my children. Nor have I even looked to see what podcasts are there for that are safe for children. So that's fascinating. I didn't realize, I grew up listening to a program from Focus on the Family called Adventures in Odyssey, which was an audio program, which is what my kids are liking with my mom. But that's fascinating. What inspired you to create HeWo? Was there a moment when you said, "This is something I want to do"?
So it's something that actually my wife started on her own when we moved in the US about 2 years ago now. And what happened is that she was taking her second daughter, Esther, to bed. And before that, she was praying with her, as we do every night before going to bed. and she had quite a lengthy prayer that day. And at the end of this prayer, of this, I think about 20 minutes or so of prayer, so Esther was sleeping, so she came back with me, and she told me, you know what, I received something, a calling during this prayer, and this calling is, I need to work on helping the kids to know Jesus and to learn how to pray. And I know exactly what I want to do. And she started to take a piece of paper, a pen, and to draw something that was looking exactly like that, like the final product we have. And yeah, so that was really a mission that she received in prayer, and that she took some time to, discern a bit about that. Also we worked on, like, financially, how does that work, etc. And my answer for her was, if this is actually a calling, you have to start working on that right now. I mean, you cannot delay, you cannot hesitate. If it's a calling from God, you have to respond. And so she did that, and she did that on her own for quite some time. But the moment when we had that is extremely clear in history.
Yeah, powerful calling, as you describe it. And before I ask a little bit more about it, I did want to ask a little bit about the content that's that is available through it. Is it any content you can put on there, or is it just stuff you curate? How's that work?
Yeah, so no, it's not any content. So I think we have two models. We have one where you just get the player and that's it. With this silicone jacket, you can choose your color. We have nice colors, nice options for the kids. And that comes with 30 stories from the Bible and 10 prayers, which are, like, extremely close to the Bible in terms of text. Like, what we wrote is, well, it's really almost word for word what is in the Bible. We just give some context, because for kids, we have to help them imagining, what does it look like? What did the Galilee see? How big this is, etc. So we give lots of element of context, because we've been there, we've studied that, and we're helping the kids to put that in. Oh, it's not just a story in a book; it's something that actually happened somewhere at some time. And so that's the first part. The second part is you go with a subscription. So on top of the player, you have a $50 a year subscription that gives you the access to all the rest of the content. But this content, we do the selection, and we're working with amazing institutions, with amazing families that are also creating. We're working with a wonderful family making a daily podcast for kids, 8-9 minute podcast every day, that's Catholic Sprout podcast. They're really amazing people. We have songs. We have tons of songs for kids for all age. And basically what we do is that we guarantee that this content is good for your kid.
That's pretty powerful. I thought, understanding what is available there was good for this. So you feel the calling, and you decided to start it. Were you guys living in the US when you decided to start this, or were you in France?
Yeah, no, we were actually in the US. So what happened is, I was working for a very, very, very large tech company, headquartered in Seattle. And so in France, and then they took us to Canada because they asked me to launch part of their business in Canada, in Quebec, East Canada. And then they moved me after about 2 years to the US. And when we arrived there, the first idea was for my wife to find a job. We had Esther, she was 3 months old. So we said, take your time. It's all good. Take your time. You're going to settle here. She has to grow a bit. So you have about 6 months. And during that process, she received this calling. So basically she shifted from maternity leave, let's say, to being an entrepreneur. And that was really exciting.
Right. Yeah. And so you started it here. What I think it's a interesting thing you're doing, because I've started businesses before, but there are things like, I own a marketing agency, I own a data company. So all of our products are intellectual, but you actually built something that it is physical here. So it sounds like there's a lot of, I can just imagine the moving parts to get that going. What's been the most challenging part of launching this and getting it made?
Oh yeah, you're right. That's actually something where most people who are talking with, while we were designing and developing the product, were saying, just do an app. Everybody does app right now. So just do an app. That's easier. You're going to make it better and you're going to make more money with that. Don't worry. And the thing is so we knew that creating an actual physical product, it's complicated. And it's endless basically. And the risk you carry are definitely, way higher than for something which is only software. But our reflection, and we thought about that and we pray on it. And the thing is, the whole idea is to take the kids away from the smartphones. So that's something for us. It's we have a 6 years old and a 2 years old, and we're expecting the third one. But the 6 years old, if she takes my smartphone, it takes her, 2-3 seconds maybe to shift from a good app, like Christian app, Catholic app, to whatever, like Instagram, YouTube, and she can, see any content that or commercials or whatever, absolutely not appropriate for her. And I can't control that because the thing is, I'm pretty busy as every parent in this country. And so you can't make sure, it's very hard to make sure that, they don't have that. So for us, it was by principle, we had to do this physical device. And so, it's hard. We've been lucky because we've met the right persons at the right time. We've worked with an amazing agency in Texas who helped us design basically the product. As you can see, it is 90% from them. The electronic also, they helped us a lot on that. We did some fine tuning. We worked some engineers. Because I've been driving some innovation. I'm an engineer, but not specifically in this area. But so we were lucky. We met the right persons, and they took us by the hand and show us how to do that. And it went. It's tough. It's definitely complicated, but I think we were kind of supported by the best engineer of all times.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that reference. Because you're right. The divine inspiration from the very beginning when she was drawing out what she wanted it to look like. What would you say has been one of the more rewarding parts of the journey? There's a lot of designing and long nights probably, but what's been some of the coolest circumstances that have come together for you?
I think the very early when we had, I think the very first functioning prototype. So that it was really ugly, I want to say, because it was 3D printed, black and white, not the right feeling, not the right touch. Basically everything was wrong, but on purpose. That was made to test the electronics and to test the size.
Right.
And we did a retreat 1 weekend in a monastery in Oregon, and we met their family with a kid, probably 5 years old, something, maybe 6, something like that. And we were talking with the parents, and we had that on our hands, and basically we placed the player on the table, and the kid, he took it. And he ran away. He started to play with it, and he was listening to all the story we had recorded there, and he was having so much fun. And so that was very early in the process. And when you see that, you say, okay, that was not a bad move to make this product, because I see that it attracts. The kids, they love it, and that was pretty rewarding. After that, when you see all the messages we have from our customers saying how much they love it, how much the kids they they spend time with it, and they're attached to the product, to the player itself. That is extremely rewarding. And so we're lucky.
I thought it was interesting that it becomes the kid's device, right? Which is the biggest challenge right now for a lot of parents. Is the kids want a cell phone, and they want to watch videos, and even if the content is a little hinky, even if the content's fine, they're staring at it. They're not interacting with human beings, not using their imagination. But I think that was really interesting that it sort of becomes something they can use and operate.
Yeah, and they can carry it. Like every day we have our daughters, they go to school with it. So, like when we're driving or whatever, they listen to it. And it's just like, of course I take my smartphone when I go drive somewhere.
Yes.
And they take their stuff. It's their own like device, their own player. They love it, and they want to carry it, everywhere with them. So that is actually really helping some families, I think, to say, you don't have your cell phone, you have a HeWo for now. And when you're going to be 14, 12, whatever, your choice, you'll get a smartphone.
Yeah. I know we were having some discussion before we started about the interesting contrast between starting your business here in the US and trying to start a corresponding version in France. I thought that was an interesting reference if you want to share.
Well, when we started working, Viviana was starting working on the product, very quickly we were like, we need to have an actual company, an actual business. And so she went online, and at that time she was still, learning English. We're always learning English, but and she was not very confident, but she went online, she did the registration, she found an agent and everything she needed. And it took her maybe 45 minutes to fill in all the documents. And within a day or two, we had the paper back from the state of Washington saying, you've got your LLC, you're ready to go. That's good. Recently, last summer, we started to work on, we should have a company in France because it's still our country. We want to launch in France, definitely. And we wanted to launch, this year at the same time, US and France. And so we started to create a company in France. We're still not done. So it's just crazy complicated to do business. Just to create a company in France compared to the US. And this is something that we always heard when you're in France. Is you have some entrepreneurs on the radio, TV, whatever, saying, "Yeah, it's easier to do business in the US. We should change our the bunch of regulation we have, and the bunch of all the paper you need, and all that, and take example on the US." But for me, it was more a myth. Like, yeah, probably it's slightly easier, but that's probably not true. I can testify it is true, and it takes a lot of courage for a French entrepreneur to work in France because it's definitely more complicated.
I've also heard this, of course, but I have not, had any reason to set up an entity outside the US.
You're lucky because even for people speaking French with French nationality, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. So I can't imagine if you don't speak French, if you're an American citizen, it's you have to have very, very good lawyers, I can tell you.
Yeah. I find sometimes that what ends up happening in situations like that is new entrepreneurs are put at great inconvenience to start a business. But once they have one, that horrible, lengthy, difficult process becomes their protection against competition. And so you reduce the instigation for change.
Yeah, that's probably right. I do like the idea of the administrative work is light and the competition happens on the field of the business rather than on the field of bureaucracy, personally.
Yes.
But yeah, no, it's that just reminds me because we just had the reopening of Notre Dame in Paris last weekend, and it's very, like, I think we've done an amazing job at after the burning of Notre Dame 5 years ago to be able to reopen it in such a short amount of time. And actually, I don't know if you guys in the US, that, but we had to pass some special laws to get rid of lots of regulations. Otherwise, it would have taken probably 20 years. So that's basically when we actually need to go fast. We know how to go fast in France. It's just we just need to get rid of the democracy. So of the bureaucracy, not democracy, of course.
Yeah, no, I understood. My wife and I spent about a week in France. Now it would have been 2017, and so we visited Notre Dame there, and we saw the outside of it. I regret still to this day the line was super long to get inside. We opted out of going inside, but even just seeing the outside of it was just amazing. And of course we visited. I could have spent 2 weeks there. Kristen would probably move there if I wouldn't stop her. And we love different things. She liked the art museums, and I love the history. And so, she. So anyway, it was just a great experience there. And I remember when it burned and just thinking, boy, that is such a tragedy. But the fact that they've reopened it, restored it so quickly.
Yeah. And it's definitely way more, beautiful than it was. It was back in the time. I remember when I was younger, it was pretty dark inside. If you look at the picture now, it's extremely lightful and white and beautiful. And yeah, I can't wait. We're flying back to France next summer. We're going to spend 2 months in France for the first time in 4 years. So happy to definitely that will be part of the trip.
Well, and I definitely want to talk about the Marquis de Lafayette. You were talking about the connection you have there, which may be the coolest thing, maybe second coolest to the HeWo device you've built.
Yeah, it's a fun story, and it's also something that connects me with the US with a special bond. I think it happened that back in the 18th century, my grandfather was the aide de camp of the Marquis de Lafayette when he was fighting alongside the Americans against the English for the independence. And yeah, so we had, and then after the war, he came back to France and he had his career and became a general in the French army in the 19th century. And I remember I had one uncle, a brother of my father, who used to live in the US. He used to live in New York City. He was working for a bank. And when he was coming back to France to visit, he would spend hours talking about the history of this General Dumas, the name of our ancestor. And it was, I don't remember exactly. I know, I know there is a book on that. But on what he did during the American Revolution. But it's it's amazing. So for me, it was like really like America, the US was something very attractive where I've always felt connected to this country, for the reason of a young boy listening to stories of his family. And that was really nice. So when I had the opportunity to come and live in the US, that I was so happy.
It's such a cool story, and it is such a great connection, right? The history between the two countries, it's so close, right? Because not just the participation in the American Revolution by the French government, the Statue of Liberty, and just many connections between France and the US.
And we do exist. France still exists because of all the GIs that came and saved us technically. So we're so grateful of this amazing history these two countries have. I think we always said that France is the oldest friend of the US. And yeah, I think that's true. And for me personally, having the opportunity to live in this country and to see also all the values here and everything, it's really an amazing experience.
Yeah.
And
well, we're so glad you're here.
Down the line of, genealogy and history that I can kind of feel. It's really cool.
Yeah. Well, maybe this will give Krista and I more of a reason to get out to France. We'll say it's an important podcast related trip, to get out there.
When you go, you tell me. I'll give you the right address, the good restaurants, and and I'll be happy to share a bit of my experience in Paris.
As we end our time together, I always try to ask people a couple of different questions, and I'm always fascinated by the results. And I like to really ask entrepreneurs like you, what's the legacy you're really hoping to leave behind with your company?
It's a great question. For us, because we have this mission, it's pretty simple, actually, because we feel like our goal is to be just instruments of the grace of God. So what we hope is that we create this media that allow the kids to be more connected with God. So if we have a generation of kids that grow closer to God, thanks to HeWo, that is exactly what we want.
Well, powerful and important.
Yeah.
And then I like to give an invitation for people to talk about just a side topic, maybe something not related to your business, but maybe it's a passion, a hobby. What's keeping your interest today outside of HeWo?
I'll be honest with you, Kurt. I do not have at this stage, as like when you start a business, when you really launch a product, your life is really reduced to your product and your family, and technically that's it. That's the only thing I can do. But one thing that I feel is really interesting because I mean, as most of us, we are connected in LinkedIn and we see all these articles on AI and all that, and some people are fierce about it. Some people are super excited. And I have two things. For me, AI is something I do use every single day in my work. I don't think we would have been able to launch this business without AI, just because I can't code a single line of code in theory, but ChatGPT or other AI, they do everything for me technically. So it's just like and even back in the time, I remember when I was working in tech, more as a manager than as a tech, I would have had these tools available that would have been just amazing, because you can put any ask you have of your brain down to an execution, and that's really amazing. So I do use that all the time. And I do believe that we have to be very careful to have this technology to empower faithful person and conservative person to take share of that. Because if you let that to the big tech people, where you know that the use they're gonna do is probably not good, I don't think we should be. I mean, we can fear the technology, but we can also embrace and take the best of it for the good. And I think this is really something that I do realize launching this business, even though it's not my core business, it's something I do on the side. But yeah.
I know what you mean. I use AI a lot, and I have found it to be a great benefit. Well, I also know that when you ask ChatGPT questions, it doesn't always tell you the truth. and so there are definitely pluses and minuses. But to your point, we can't cede the technology only to people who would use it for bad, or would control it for their own means. But it is out, and it's going to be out. Hopefully one day it doesn't become sentient like Skynet and send Arnold Schwarzenegger after us, but you don't know. So I wanted to give you a chance, 60 seconds, 60, 90 seconds for now that we're coming to a close. Give me the quick HeWo pitch, like real concise for somebody who's listening. 60, 90 seconds, why they would want to buy and use your product.
So I think if you believe in God, and if God is the most important thing actually in your life, even if you don't live it that way all the time, but when you think about it, you know it's the most important thing. And if you have kids under 12, the only Christmas present you should give them this year is a HeWo. Because this is a security for you to make sure that they will learn about Jesus, they will learn about God, they'll learn how to pray, they'll develop their brain and their heart, and they open their ears and hearts to really the word of God. And just as St. Paul says in the Romans, faith comes by hearing the word of God. And this little player helps you to hear the word of God.
I like it. Such a good value proposition for your company. And I think it's really cool. And we're going to make sure this episode gets up before Christmas. So maybe we can get some people to buy your product.
I hope we're going to have tons of visit at HeWoStore.com. It's HeWo store.com.
Yeah, we'll make sure to mention it in our promotion, list that in our show notes. And perhaps Chris and I have been looking for gifts for our own children here as Christmas comes. This sounds like a great product to be buying. So thank you, folks, for tuning in. For any of you listening and who want to get in touch with Elie or buy a HeWo device before Christmas, just like he mentioned, you can go to HeWoStore.com. That's HeWoStore.com. And for those of you who would like to support what we're doing, make sure you like us, subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And if you'd like to learn more about Liberty Spenders and what we can do, check out libertyspenders.com/free, where you can get a free copy of our new book. Until next time, thank you for listening in.